Good evening. I would like to welcome you to this evening's Senate Committee on Special Legislation and Veterans Affairs. Could we start off with the clerk taking the roll call, please?
Senator Felag.
Present.
Senator Murray.
Present.
Senator Lawson. Senator Bell.
Here.
Senator Mendes.
Present.
Senator Morgan. Senator Raptakis. Oh,
Present.
Senator Seveny.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum, correct?
Yes.
And I believe the minority person will be present. Otherwise, we have approval to move forward. The first bills we're going to do is the ones that are under consideration. The first bill under consideration is Senate Bill 68 by Senator Sosnowski. Can we have a motion for passage?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Senator Felag.
Yes.
Senator Murray.
Yes.
Senator Lawson.
Senator Lawson.
Here. I'm having trouble, like, you're cutting in and out. Is that me?
Could be, unless anyone else is having the same problem. We're voting on Bill 68. Are you affirmative to that? Senator Sosnowski? Or raise your hand so I know it's a yes. Okay, it's a yes. Senator Lawson.
Senator Bell.
Yes.
Senator Mendes. Senator Morgan. Senator Raptakis.
Yes.
And the vote
Senator
is?
Seveny. Senator Seveny.
Yes.
Thank you.
What's the tally?
7 in the affirmative.
0 in the negative, correct?
And 1 absence, yes.
All right, thank you. The next bill is by Senator Gallo, 142. It was a bill that we had heard. Can we have a motion for passage, please?
Move passage.
We have a motion.
Second.
In a second. Roll call, please.
Senator Felag.
Yes.
Senator Murray.
Yes.
Senator Lawson.
Yes.
Senator Bell.
Yes.
Senator Mendes.
Yes.
Senator
Yes.
Morgan. Senator Raptakis.
Yes.
Senator Seveny.
Senator Seveny,
Yes.
the tally.
Yes.
7 in the affirmative.
The next bill is Senate Bill 67 by Senator Seveny. Can we have a motion for passage?
So moved.
We have a second. Second by Senator Murray. Roll call, please.
Senator Felag.
Yes.
Senator Lawson.
Senator Lawson's yes.
Okay. Senator Murray.
Yes.
Senator Bell.
Yes.
Senator Mendes.
Yes.
Senator Raptakis.
Yes.
Senator Seveny.
Tally.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Seven in the affirmative.
All right. The first bill of the evening will be Senate Bill 197 by Senator Jacon. Senator Jacon is presently chairing the Senate Labor Committee, but his bill would establish the Player Self-Exclusion Program within the State Lottery Division, with any winnings collected from the self-included person to be used to the Rhode Island Council on problem gambling for its use for research, education, prevention of teenage gambling addiction. This is a new bill. This is the first time we're hearing this particular bill. There obviously are some questions relative to the legislation. We're in the process now of calling up John Tassone, former senator, who is the Rhode Island Council of Problem Gambling, to be an advocate of support for this piece of legislation. Again, this bill would create a new chapter in the law where Player Self-Exclusion Program would require the Directorate of the Division of Lottery to establish a list of self-included persons from the gambling establishment. The gaming facility cannot market to anyone on this particular list, nor give permission or free tickets at the venue. Any person on the list is not eligible to collect winnings. There are all right, we're in the process of bringing Senator Tassone on to speak on this legislation. Welcome, Senator Tassone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I am the board chair of the Rhode Island Council on Problem Gambling. This is a piece of legislation that we had put in last year, but due to COVID, it was never heard. We have had meetings with Senator Jacon and members of the Lottery Commission. Pertaining to this piece of legislation, we're looking to get the winnings for the people who are in self-exclusion. Self-exclusion means that you sign a document and that you're not allowed to gamble within inside these facilities. And that facilities at that time have a list of people. When people win, that money is forfeited to the Rhode Island Lottery, and we in the Rhode Island Council on Problem Gambling will get a piece of that. I think the bill needs to be sub-aid to the max of $150,000, and the lottery keeps the rest. And I will entertain any questions that you may have.
First off, are you in receipt of a letter from the Rhode Island Department of Revenue, the Lottery Division?
I did receive the letter when we heard the bill on the House side.
Okay, because they obviously have voiced some concerns with the legislation, and I think it's important that we end up addressing those particular concerns. One of the concerns I have is relative to self-exclusion. Does that mean that individual has to place themselves on a list, or can someone place someone else on a list?
No, the individual has to sign a document of self-exclusion. Those individuals that sign the document have expressed them having a problem, and they do not wish to go back into the casinos until they get their problem addressed. So we've had times where individuals sneak in, even if they're on self-exclusion, and play the slots or play the table games.
And yeah, because that leads to the forfeiture aspect in terms of the establishment. How are they going to figure out who knowingly is on this list or not on the list?
The facilities themselves have a copy of the exclusion paperwork, and also have a photo ID of these individuals. These individuals are not forced to sign their voluntary signs that they do not want to go back into the casino, but because of the issue of addiction, sometimes they sneak in because of their addiction problems.
Okay, all right, very good. Any questions from the committee? Senator Bell.
So, my question is, why is it necessary to make it so that players or individuals who suffer from gambling addiction, who sign the self-exclusion document, are not allowed to keep any winnings? Can't we just exclude them from gambling? Shouldn't that be the focus of this, to exclude them from gambling?
Well, the focus of the intent of the legislation is to make sure that they follow their own rules to stay out of the casinos. And if in fact they do go to the casinos and they do gamble, they signed a document that they would self-exclude. So obviously, you know, I would say, you know, it looks like possibly they're breaking the law per se, that they've signed this document and then they snuck in and they're playing the table games and the slot machines.
Through the chair, if I may.
Proceed.
So I'm looking at page 1, line 12, section B. And all that gambling establishments are prohibited from doing here is marketing to persons and on the excluded list, and giving them access to complimentaries, check cashing privileges, club programs, and other similar benefits. It does not, unless there's something I'm missing here, I don't see that people are banned from, that signing the self-exclusion bans you from gambling. All it does is it sets you up in a situation where you can't win anything. But you can go, and this law seems to anticipate that people will still gamble, will win things, people with gambling addictions will win things, but won't be able to recoup any of their winnings. So there'll be financial losses to people with gambling addiction, and I don't love that. I feel like it would be much better if people with gambling addiction were actually not allowed back in, because as you mentioned, it's an addiction, and it's a disease, and people will try and go in and gamble anyway, and I think they should be barred from gambling. Why can't we do that? Why can't we simply bar them from gambling at gambling establishments?
Well, we can. Obviously, if you look at, and I know it's not in the bill, but the self-exclusion paperwork that they sign says it prohibits them from entering a gambling facility. It may not say that in the legislation, and as Senator Felag said, we've had conversations with the Lottery Commission, and there will be a sub-A being brought forward at a future date, and maybe that's something that we address. We actually maybe put something pertaining to the self-exclusion paperwork in the bill.
That would be very helpful, and you know, I would just hope that we could also include something about the gambling establishments themselves not allowing people on the self-exclusion list to come gamble, so that there's some responsibility for people, for the gaming establishments to actually enforce it as well, not just put it on the person who suffers from addiction and signs the paperwork, but actually make the gaming establishments not allow people with gambling addictions in to gamble.
Well, Senator, if someone goes in their regular clothes without dressing up, I'm sure they'll be spotted as they enter the facility because of security. But when you have someone who puts on a wig or wears different clothes or makes themselves up not to look like the person that they are, it's very difficult to do that, because you're not showing a license or anything when you enter the facility.
I understand what you're saying. You can't require that they succeed, but I do think that one could require they make a good faith effort.
Well, they do that by the security. Obviously, they're watching all the time. There's a list of individuals and their photos in the security booths about individuals who self-exclude. But again, you can't really blame the facilities if someone puts on a red wig and they're a blonde individual and they don't have a beard and they put on a beard. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of ways when people are addicted, try to find their way to get through the issues and to get addicted again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know. I think more liability should be on the gaming corporations to make sure that they actually do their level best to enforce this. And I feel like the bill would be strengthened if that were included.
All right, thank you very much.
That.
At this time, like you mentioned, there's got to be a sub-A to this piece of legislation. So can I have a motion to hold for further study?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those, clerk, indicate the roll call.
Senator Felag,
Yes.
Senator Murray,
Yes.
Senator Lawson, Senator Lawson.
Yes.
Thank you. Senator Bell,
Yes.
Senator Mendes,
Yes.
Senator Morgan, Senator Raptakis,
Yes.
Senator 70,
The tally, please.
7 in the affirmative.
Okay, moving on to the next piece of legislation, how apropos it is. It's the Senate Resolution 274 by Senator Picard. I see that Senator Picard is with us this evening. And can you endeavor to explain your piece of legislation for us?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. Hello, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is an act I've submitted for a few years in a row now. It's a joint resolution to amend the Rhode Island Constitution to let the governor and the lieutenant governor run on the same ticket. I feel that both elected officials of both general offices should be connected. I believe it would help in the running of the state if both officers would be in tandem in their vision for Rhode Island. For example, while the governor would be administering to the running of the state, the lieutenant governor in his or her capacity would be able to be involved with various activities to support the platform that they're promoting. It would address the situation where the governor leaves, as the case we just had. There would be continuity in the running of the state. Having the lieutenant governor and the governor run on the same ticket, I think would eliminate the potential of a friend versus foe perspective, meaning a foe perspective if the lieutenant governor and the governor were diametrically opposed to each other on all issues. I think that could create an incredible problem in the changing of the leadership of the governor in the future. I know it says to be implemented in 2022. I'm not sure if that can be done, but it could definitely be on the ballot for the next time the governor and lieutenant governor runs. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
First off, Senator Cott, I don't know if you have that information, but how many states run together, the governor and lieutenant governor?
I don't know. I do not have that one. I was looking at some stuff today, and I remember the number 23 popping up, but I can't remember if that was states together or states apart. So let me get back to you on that one.
Okay. Any other questions from any members of the committee? Senator Mendes?
Hi, Senator Picard, thank you for this piece of legislation. I was just curious if you've heard from any good government groups like Common Cause or any other groups that seem to be in favor of this. Have you, have you heard from them in that process?
No, nobody's reached out to me. I'm trying to think in the past, because I put this bill in a few times. I don't quite recall anybody at this point. Sorry.
No, it's okay. And what about the Secretary of State and just about, would it be, I'm just curious about the process of changing. It seems like that would be a pretty simple process of changing the ballot. Does that seem right to you?
Well, I think you gotta change the Constitution first, you know?
Yeah.
And once that's done, then yeah, the rest could be, you know, put together very easily.
Yeah, so it's not a really laborious process after that, once we change that, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. I note, Roger, that there are particular differences between your version and the House version. Are you aware of that, or are we able to provide that to you?
I was unaware. Is this Representative Phillips who put this bill in?
Yes.
Okay. That's definitely something I can talk to him about. I didn't know there was a difference, or the slight differences, but if we were to move forward in this, trying to make sure they're the same, we can definitely work on that.
Okay, and I'll provide you with the differences that we have from our staff that looked at both of those bills and noted some differences.
Okay.
Okay, and at this time, we have a motion to hold. Oh, we have a motion to hold. Do we have a second? Second, roll call, please. Yes. Senator Murray to hold.
Yes.
Senator Lawson.
Yes.
Senator Bell.
Yep.
Senator Mendes?
Senator Mendes.
No.
Senator Raptakis?
Yes.
Senator 70?
Yes.
6 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative.
All right, thank you. The next piece of legislation is Senate Bill 275 that was submitted by myself. Basically, we had passed a bill in 2013 that created the chapter of the military spouse licensure. Most of the verbiage was may. We're trying to tell that the professional board shall issue licenses to professional services instead of creating procedures to expedite the process for military spouses, as long as they have been licensed for a year in another state and stationed in the state for military duty. This would apply to those that would have been honorably discharged or relocated in the state of Rhode Island. It provides a new section that would establish a list of criteria that would cause for disqualification of the license issuance. The bill creates a new section limiting the occupational license and clarifies only the good in the state. It's a bill that needs attention because of the fact that we need this process in place for our military individuals that move to the state, especially those that go to the War College or receive occupations at Newark or other research facilities. And unfortunately, Mr. Arnold is not here to provide more testimony, but we do have someone who is opposed to it. Reached out to him, Randall Rose. Welcome to the Senate Committee. Mr. Rose? Mr. Rose, are you with us? Mr. Rose? I believe he's speaking, but we can't.
Yes, sorry. I was here. I must apologize. It looks like I may have signed. Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I must apologize. Yes. It looks like I signed up for the wrong bill. I signed up to oppose Senate Bill 274, at least I meant to oppose that, not 275. I have no objection to 275.
Oh, thank you.
So my mistake. If you've already heard 274, then I'm sorry.
Yes, we already heard 274, but we will take any written testimony or from you and make sure that it's well documented that you oppose 274.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you.
All right. At this time, can we have
Senator Lawson?
Yes.
I was just wondering, were there specific areas that were of concern more than others?
Not necessarily. It was just a blanketed one where individuals would come in that have the proper certification to potentially be a nurse or maybe a teacher or maybe other occupations, and they had to go through a whole process where we should be able to establish some sort of expedited process for them to, especially if they were certified in another state and the credentials for certification were similar to the state of Rhode Island.
Thank you, Chairman.
Any other questions? Senator Raptakis.
So the license, if the person moved out of, say they finished their duty at the Naval War College or any facility, then it would automatically expire once they left the state of Rhode Island, correct? Do we have a provision in that, in the language of the bill to make sure it expires once they leave Rhode Island?
Well, it depends on whatever that state is that they go to.
Right, but if they come to Rhode Island with somebody else's license, we're going to license them here while their spouse is serving at the Naval War Base, Newport Naval Water Under Warfare Systems or the base. But once they leave Rhode Island, say their end of duty finishes, and they go back to California, we would end that license, correct? Would we still allow the license to be used in Rhode Island?
If they left the state, then why would we still have the license?
Right, but we should have a provision in the statute maybe to make sure that once they leave, that license is going to expire upon leaving the state of Rhode Island. I'm just out of abundance of caution.
All right, we'll look at it then. Thank you. Any other questions?
Chairman, could I just,
Yep.
I just wanted to kind of comment on Senator Raptakis' comment. I would think that all of these licenses would require individuals to do certain things to maintain them, to renew them anyway. So I think that would probably take care of that piece in that process. That's something to consider as well.
Right. We wouldn't want to necessarily have someone get a license in Rhode Island, then end up leaving, and then find out that their command gets changed back to Rhode Island, that they have to formally apply.
But all of us who have licenses have to renew them and have certain requirements we have to fulfill anyway, so they would be subject to them like everyone with a license, so it might take care of itself.
Correct. The only expediency would be in the process of establishing that license if they had one in another state. So it's almost like reciprocity between one state and another state, as long as the criteria is the same, so to speak. Obviously, if the criteria is more stringent, then they would have to go through that process to establish that licensure. All right, at this time, a motion to hold is in order. Clerk, can you read the roll call, please?
Senator Felag?
Yes.
Senator Murray?
Yes.
Senator Lawson?
Yes?
Senator Bell?
Do we actually have a motion to hold? I'll vote for a motion to hold it.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Thank you for the correction. Can we have a motion to hold, please?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Senator Raptakis, roll call again, please.
Sure. Senator Felag?
Yes.
Senator Murray?
Yes.
Senator Lawson?
Yes?
Senator Bell?
Yes.
Senator Mendes?
Yes.
Senator Raptakis,
Yes.
Senator Savani. Yes?
Yes.
Senator- Okay,
Yes.
thank you. 7 in the affirmative.
All right, the next bill is Senate Bill 442 by Senator Lombardo. I thought he was on. Senator Lombardo, present.
I am here.
Can you endeavor to explain your piece of legislation, please? 442.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Let me first start by saying, let there be no misunderstanding, ambiguity, or confusion. This bill has nothing to do with the City of Providence, with legalization of ATVs, motorcycles, dirt bikes, and scooters. This simply would provide that a three-wheel motorcycle be included under the licensing requirements of the Department of Motor Vehicles. Let me explain. Currently, the Rhode Island Department of Motor Vehicles does not recognize a three-wheel motorcycle and does not offer a license for those vehicles. An individual is required to take the two-wheel course to obtain their license in order to ride a three-wheel motorcycle. As a result, some individuals with disabilities or those riders with challenges in balancing or maneuvering a 800-pound motorcycle, they would not be allowed to take that course. Would not be allowed to have a three-wheel license specifically just for three wheels. This is a significant disconnect in the motorcycle licensing compared to many other states. In fact, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, along with 29 other states allow a restricted motorcycle license or an endorsement for a three-wheel motorcycle. So this piece of legislation would allow riders who strictly want to ride a three-wheel vehicle to be able to participate in the Rhode Island Motorcycle Education Program and, if successful, be issued a three-wheel license. I must add, I have met with the Department of Motor Vehicles and they are very much in support of this piece of legislation. And with that, I'll take questions.
The first question is relative to they have to obtain their own license, correct, to operate this vehicle?
They're absolutely, they're required to have a two-wheel license in order to operate a three-wheel motorcycle. And it certainly hurts the veterans who are not stable on a two-wheel bike, can't handle a two-wheel bike, and they prefer to ride a three-wheel bike. They would not be able to take that course and pass the test on a two-wheel in order to ride a three-wheel bike.
And also there's a part of instruction that's part of this classroom instruction?
Classroom and road instruction, both.
And how do we differentiate between an ATV, a three-wheel type thing? Is it because of the weight of these vehicles?
No, an ATV right now is four wheels. They do not manufacture or make a three-wheel ATV anymore.
Okay, just wanted to make sure on that. One other concern, I guess, in reading the letter of support from DMV, they indicate a effective date of March 1st, 22. Do you have any problem with that?
I do not.
All right, questions from the committee? Senator Bell?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I think you can probably guess my question. I've been inundated from concerns from my constituents about the legalization of ATVs, and I understand that's definitely not the intent of this legislation. But I'm wondering about how we can make that super clear in the statute. And specifically, while three-wheeled ATVs are no longer commonly made, you can still buy them, and they are used. And you can buy. I have eBay open, and you can get a 1985 Honda three-wheeled ATV for $6,500. You can still buy them. So how do we make sure that this will not apply to three-wheeled ATVs? Is that already clarified in the definition of a motorcycle? I was searching through the law to try and find that. But if not, can we make sure that that's clarified, that this won't apply to three-wheeled ATVs?
Well, if you go to page 1, line 18 and 19, it specifically says any three-wheel motorcycle or motor-driven cycle. An ATV is not a motorcycle or a motor-driven cycle. But go ahead, Senator.
So I understand that's the intent. I'm wondering, my question is really, can we make that clear, crystal clear in the definition of a motorcycle so that there's no ambiguity here?
I can absolutely talk. I can talk with DMV and come up with the wording that would satisfy your condition.
Thank you so much. Very much appreciate that.
No, I appreciate that, and that's why I asked the question too, so it's clearly delineated that it's not the ATV or the dirt bikes that have taken over the city of Providence and Cranston and other areas that basically are illegal to be on the road. Any other questions? Senator Raptakis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the definition here, it's getting a little bit confused because there's a big difference between a three-wheel motorcycle. A three-wheel motorcycle could be also the motorcycle that has a passenger compartment. I've seen folks drive around during motorcycle rallies where there's a driver and then there's a passenger, which is also a three-wheel, but that passenger is in sort of a compartment. I don't want to use the word, the motorcycles from the German motorcycles from World War II, but I think the definition should be probably a little bit more clearly defined. And those motorcycles are totally different. Their wheelbase is different. The type of tires they use are different. Those are regular motorcycle tires versus the ATVs, which are used off-road. They're used in mountains, in terrain. So I think that that's where the confusion lies. When somebody hears three-wheel, they think all of a sudden it's the ones that we've seen on television in the city of Providence causing havoc. These are simple, if these are the type of bikes that I thought they already were registered or had a license for a driver driving a motorcycle with that passenger compartment on the side. That's why I think it's a little bit maybe a little bit confused, but if the sponsor may answer the question.
Sure, Senator Raptakis, that is considered an autocycle, not a motorcycle, not a three-wheel motorcycle. There is a difference in the law. An autocycle has a passenger. A three-wheel motorcycle has sort of, I don't know if you're familiar with a Can-Am. It doesn't have a steering wheel. It has handlebars, and it has three wheels, or a trike, which would be a motorcycle with a wheel in the front and two wheels in the back. That's considered a trike. So those are the two specific vehicles that would be considered a three-wheel motorcycle. Do not confuse it with an autocycle. An autocycle has a steering wheel, has three wheels, and it has room for a passenger.
And basically, again, it's the design also. The ones that we've been referring ATV, dirt bikes, those are just totally different types of motorcycles that you can't even, they shouldn't be used on a public road. Those are really used for off-terrain, mountains, rough areas. So basically, and I was surprised that we don't have those type of three-wheel bikes that you're referring to in the legislation even allow a license. But thank you.
Senator Lobato, one more question. I know you're an expert in terms of motorcycle driving, but can you explain to the committee the reason for two separate licenses, one for a two-wheel and one for a three-wheel?
Well, how this all came about, I was contacted by a constituent who is paralyzed from the waist down. And before she was paralyzed, she enjoyed riding motorcycles. And she let her motorcycle license lapse, and she wanted to get a license. She purchased a 3-wheel Can-Am. And she enjoyed riding, but the state of Rhode Island did not issue a 3-wheel motorcycle license, which was impossible for her because of being paralyzed from the waist down, was unable to get a 2-wheel license. She went to Massachusetts. She actually contacted DMV and expressed her concern about it. And she got permission from Rhode Island, the DMV in Rhode Island, to go to Massachusetts to qualify for their 3-wheel educational program, classroom and road. She did pass that, and the state of Rhode Island picked up the tab for her classroom and for the experience of going out there. So that's how this all came about. This is a good piece of legislation.
So currently we have around 20 to 25 states
29
that provide
states.
this license. How many?
29.
29 at this time.
29, including, like I said, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, and I believe I said Maine.
All right, let's
So
try.
we're lagging behind on that.
All right, let's try to see how we can further strengthen the ATV dirt bike exemption from this piece of legislation. And I believe Senator Mendes has a question?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Nope, that's quite all right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the intent of this piece of legislation to kind of help clear an unintended barrier that is in front of the constituents. So I just wanted to praise my colleague for really working hard on a piece of legislation that would clear a barrier for someone. I'm just curious if, so this is a question regarding the two separate pieces of, two separate licenses. Does that mean if someone happened to be fortunate enough to own both a two-wheel motorcycle and a 3-wheel motorcycle, they would need to get two separate licenses? And and if that is true, in following that same intent of clearing barriers, is there any way to kind of create a one attempt? So if someone just needed one license to kind of prevent them from having to get two licenses for two different types of vehicles?
Well, right now, if you have a 2-wheel license, you're allowed to ride a 2-wheel and a 3-wheel motorcycle.
Okay.
So on the license, on your driver's license, it would say 2-wheel license, which would allow you to operate both. A 3-wheel would have something like a 3M, which would mean 3-wheel motorcycle only.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. Again, thank you for a very intentional piece of legislation to help clear some hurdles and barriers that we, as a state, didn't intend to place there. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you for that clarification in the licensing process. So at this time, we don't have any witnesses. I think we got a little bit of work to do here in terms of the exemptions and ensuring that exemption takes place and changing the date of, to give DMV ample opportunity to establish this 3-wheel course that we're talking about for licensure. So can we have a motion to hold at this time?
Moved.
We have a motion to hold. We have a second. Roll call, please.
Senator Felag?
Yes.
Senator Murray?
Senator Murray? No, okay, move on.
Senator Lawson? Senator Bell?
Yes.
Senator Mendes?
Yes.
Senator Raptakis?
Yes.
Senator Seveny?
Yes.
Would you like me to go back to Senator Murray?
No, if she comes back on, then we'll talk to her.
I'm here. I just had my camera off.
Okay.
I'm a yes.
You're a yes. Okay.
7 in the affirmative.
7 in the
Thank you.
affirmative, and also I just received support from the Rhode Island Motorcycle Association, so read that into the record. The last bill of the evening, thank you very much. The last bill of the evening is by Senator DeMario, 552, and I believe Senator DeMario is with us. Welcome to the Special Legislation Committee, and please explain your piece of legislation here.
Thank you so much, Chairman and members of the committee. I am really pleased to be able to bring this bill to your committee tonight. So what this bill does is it expands the current statute, which allows properties that are classified as farms to make and sell low-risk foods, and it would expand that statute to all home food makers. So this change would allow homemakers of low-risk foods like cookies, cakes, breads, basically things that do not require time and temperature control, to be able to register as a home food manufacturer and create an on-ramp to starting a business with low startup costs. And as few barriers as possible. So the origin of this bill is kind of interesting because I, had been contacted about this by an advocacy group, and at the same time, there were a number of people who were really starting to advocate to their local representatives and senators over on the other side of the bay in Rhode Island to be able to find this legal on-ramp to be able to start this type of business. And so, we have been kind of combining forces on this bill and trying to figure out what that right balance is between reducing barriers and reducing overhead costs for startup while also maintaining safety. So currently it's important to know that there are 48 other states that allow for the production of cottage food sales. And so cottage foods are simple, low risk and low cost foods to make. And again, the idea here is to try to find that right balance between providing, an on-ramp to do this in a legitimate way, while also maintaining safety. And so I know I had emailed members of the committee earlier, based on the results of the House hearing of this bill. I've been taking some feedback about some ways to maybe increase safety and clarify the language of this bill. And so it does need some amendments. One of the things that I definitely want to address is the idea of adding a labeling requirement so that consumers would know, first of all, that these foods were produced in a home kitchen, and also that there would be that disclaimer added that it may contain allergens, just to try to, again, make sure that consumers are informed and aware. And then also, there was just a little bit of concern because, again, this is an existing statute that applies to farms, and we want to make sure that this does not impact the way that they have been using this statute or being able to produce these foods. And so there was some concern about removing the word farm completely and just replacing it with home. And so we did want to add that language back in to specify that it's a property classified as a farm or home. But I do want to be very clear that in terms of properties that are classified as farms, there is no, those are not commercial kitchens. So the requirements for a residential kitchen, whether or not it's on a property tax or used as a farm, are pretty much the same. So you're going to hear from some advocates tonight, as well as the woman that I've been working with very closely on this bill, Kara Donovan, and she can kind of speak to that experience. But one of the things that I want to highlight is that this is really to provide, again, that on-ramp to entrepreneurship. Because of the limitations of trying to produce food in a home kitchen, this is really something that would be used as supplemental income. There's kind of a ceiling there in terms of production, and that if and when people are ready to scale up, there are those opportunities for them to do that by using some of the programs like the incubator kitchens that we have available in Rhode Island, or by renting commercial kitchen space or things like that. And so this is really, again, intended to be that first step that somebody could take without having to put out a lot of capital or have overhead costs. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that I can.
Now, in one instant here, it shows that you struck on a farm. Is it safe to assume, or should it be specified that the residential kitchen is on the farm?
So, yeah, that was some of the feedback that we had received after the House hearing. So the original statute only applies to properties that are classified as farms. And so what we want to do is add home kitchens to that, but not remove farms. So the proposed amendment would have both on there. So it would be both farms, properties that are classified as farms, as well as home kitchens.
But how do you do that in terms of individual cities and towns have their own zoning, correct? Now, does this address certain zoning types so that you could not have it in a residential area? I'm just thinking out loud as to...
Yeah, and so that was a question that came up as part of a discussion, and so I think that there are a couple of things to be aware of there. One is that, again, this would not necessarily mean that people who are home food manufacturers would be selling those foods out of their homes. So the proposed bill would allow them to deliver these foods, to potentially have a pickup spot or things like that. And so, but the other part of that to know is that part of the origin of this bill is the fact that this is something that people are doing already. So there are a lot of people who make, cookies for kids' birthday parties. They make special occasion cakes on the side. It started with family and friends, and then, they kind of do it for their community. And to my knowledge, there has not been any type of, zoning or use issue with, again, that kind of low volume of maybe, somebody coming to pick up their cookie order or things like that. But, certainly there's nothing in this statute that would prevent a municipality from, from being able to enforce any type of local ordinances that would conflict with this type of business.
Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking out loud in terms of a residential area and someone's all of a sudden become very famous with cooking something, and it's in a residential area, and now everyone's going to that residential area to purchase that product. Whereas a lot of communities, I know like Warren, have incubators, so to speak. Hope in Maine, where they establish their business there by making their product there within their kitchen and then bringing it elsewhere for distribution and sale. So, questions? Senator Bell.
So I think this is a truly excellent piece of legislation, and I'm very excited to see it introduced, and I want to commend the sponsor for all of her work on it. I think it's something that is desperately needed, and I'm very excited to see it move forwards. My question is, there was a little bit of confusion about the sub-A, and I'm wondering if we were able to fix that and whether you would recommend that we move the sub-A or whether you would not recommend that we move the sub-A and wait for a later sub-A. Can you just help us clarify what you would like us to do tonight?
Mr. Chair, if I can respond to that. I appreciate
Yes.
the question. This was just sort of one of those difficult issues of both timing and, email attachments and things like that. So it would, obviously I'm going to leave that to the discretion of the chair in this committee, but it would be my preference that sub-A not be moved because it does not actually reflect the substantive changes that I was hoping for. So, if the bill could just be considered as is with the expectation that it does need some amendments and we'll need to come back to that.
Thank you.
Question, Senator Mendes, I think you had your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I just wanted to commend Senator DiMario for this piece of legislation. I know a lot of people in my community who would really benefit from this piece of legislation. And, when I think of good government and ways in which we can make people's lives easier that are currently, like you said, already doing this, and I think that's definitely one of our jobs is to kind of listen and do that. and really create intentional legislation that makes people's lives easier, and hopefully a path toward thriving small businesses. And so this does all of that in really intentional ways. So I look forward to it coming to fruition.
Thank you. Senator Raptakis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And a couple of questions to Senator Mario, and congratulations for putting this thought, because single proprietors, I've been in business 40 years myself, and we've had single proprietors that need maybe just to use an oven at a restaurant, and that's it, because they don't have the space. But would we limit this sort of to a single person? Because then you get into the issues with division of taxation, Department of Health, all these regulations, where do we limit like to the single proprietor, or would they be able to have maybe one employee? That's my concern, to just be cautious as you move forward and try to accommodate that one person that wants to start a business from the brick and mortar, because that does cost a lot of money. We know that between rent and equipment, it's very costly. But does your bill maybe protect that single proprietor from, again, there's a long list, being in business for 40 years. I was famous for the amount of permits, used to roll them out. There used to be about 18 permits just to have a restaurant. So we want to make sure that if it's a single proprietor, say one person baking, whatever they're doing out of their house, from the long arm of government.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, if I may respond to
Yes.
that. So yes, so what this statute does is it just provides that pathway for registration with the Department of Health as a home food manufacturer, as a one individual person. And so, looking at this from my professional perspective, I also am licensed with the Department of Health professionally. But in terms of then what I choose to do with that and how I might open or structure a business, all of those other regulations kind of would still apply in other statutes. So this is just about providing that path for one single person to go through that registration process and be able to do that with the Department of Health. But the intention would not be then that five people would all then be kind of manufacturing things from the same house, because again then I think you're really running into that issue of like that's when it's time to scale up to an incubator kitchen to be doing something else. So this would provide for one individual to be able to be registered with the Department of Health to do this as a sole single person.
And then you also have division of taxation too, because the amount of sales, you're going to be cautious with that. You need a permit for that type of sales too. So that's another division to also look at.
Yes, and so they would need to be, right, if they registered for this, then they would need to be aware of that. And so I'll also add, and this is maybe a step or two further down the process, but, with the other states that I've researched that have done this, there's, when you go through and register to be a cottage food manufacturer, as part of that process, there are all of those like links and fact sheets about, here's what you need to know about starting a business, here's what you need to know for taxes. And so my hope would be that we would also create that type of process to make sure that people would be doing that correctly.
All right, let's go down the witness list of people that we have to call up. The first person that we wanted to call was Sarah Bracco from the Rhode Island Hospitality Association. Unfortunately, we don't have a correct number for her. If she could email my address with her phone number, or in the meantime, we know she's testified, we'll look up to see if we can get a corrected phone number for her. But next on the list is Cara Donovan. We have 8 people that we're going to contact, so bear with us for a second as we call those individuals up. And is this Cara Donovan?
Yes, it is.
You're on the Senate Committee on Special Legislation and Veterans Affairs on Senator DeMario's Bill 552. Can you please speak in support, I guess, of this legislation?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee, for the opportunity to testify in the Home Food Manufacturer Act. My name is Kara Donovan. I live in Portsmouth with my husband and 4 children. When my oldest son turned 1, it was very important to me to bake his first birthday cake. We all still look at the photo and laugh about how amateur it seems and how hard it was for me to decorate. But I still kept at it every year for each of my children, and eventually I began to really love baking and decorating. Soon I began baking for family and friends who would ask, and each time I got better and better, and eventually started experimenting with cookies and cupcakes as well. All this experimenting turned into my passion, and for a while it also offered me the opportunity to make a little bit of extra money for my family while still being able to be home with my children. I think that someday I would like to take my passion and turn it into a legitimate business. Over the years, I have looked into renting kitchen space from Incubator Kitchens, but their fees and my lack of time have always kept me from making sleep. I just wasn't able to find the necessary hours away from my home. Paying for childcare, rental and storage fees, and membership fees would all leave me having to charge an astronomical amount for my end product, and in the long run, I knew that my business would not have survived. An average hourly rate for kitchen rental space is around $25 to $30 per hour. My daughter's preschool, which also provides daycare, cost me $165 for just 3 half days. If I were to rent space just during the hours she was at school, I'd be spending over $400 a week before even getting started, and that's just the bare minimum. As an example, it takes me approximately 6 to 8 hours to make, bake, and decorate 4 dozen decorated sugar cookies. After paying for supplies, childcare, kitchen rental fees, at $3.50, with spending more than I'm making. In the end, I kept baking from home and charged a violation of the department. I've never liked doing the wrong thing by not following our state's cottage food law, so once I received the violation, I stopped baking for others. It was at that time that I decided to try and help change our state's food law. Changing Senate Bill 552 would be life-changing for me and my family, as I know it also would be tremendous for them. Over the last couple of months, my people from supported changing our cottage food law. I was so people who are honestly thinking about moving this because of how difficult it is to run a food processing business. Story about a successful bakery who relocated to Vermont because they couldn't keep up with costs and did not have the option to work out of their kitchen. It's also heartbreaking, especially in light of COVID when so many people have lost their jobs, just looking for an additional way to make ends meet. So many moms and dads now need directly available children to help with the distance requirements that many rules are adjusted about the ability to work from home. With 48 other states paving the way for home food processors, hoping for that to be added to state rules for home food production. Senate Bill 552 will bring more jobs to the state, fresh homemade non-hazardous food options, as well as allow for entrepreneurs where there otherwise is none. Thank you once again, Chairman and members of the committee, for both this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions of the first witness? Hearing none, we're moving on to the second witness, Nicole Bowley. I love that sound. That means she's on. Nicole, are you present?
I am. Hello.
Great. We hear you well, and please provide your testimony.
I'm sorry, I'm new to this. I wasn't expecting this. So yeah, on the bill, I find that that like the housewives with their small businesses should have the ability to, you know, especially now in the circumstances we are with the pandemic, to, you know, have their little businesses going. I don't think it would hurt anybody. So yeah, I'm in complete support of the cottage.
Okay. Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Anything else you'd like to add?
No, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to inform us of your support. Next, we have Mariana Silverbuck. Do we have her? Again, we have to wait for technology between the phone call and bringing it over. I hear the ring. So is Mariana here? Is this Silverbuck? She was just there. We lost her. I'm going to try again. Hello?
Hi, this is Sarah.
And who is this, please?
Hi, this is Sarah Bracco with the Hospitality Association. I'm sorry for the trouble with the phone. Technology, I guess.
All right, okay, then you're representing the Rhode Island Hospitality Association, correct?
Yes, thank you.
And this is Senate Bill 552.
Yes.
Okay, you sent us a letter and you have some concerns. So can you address those concerns, please?
Absolutely, and I want to start by saying that we want to thank the sponsor who we met with yesterday along with health discuss our specific concerns, and we are confident that there's a way to accomplish the goals of this legislation without compromising the health and safety of the public and without hurting our local bakeries. But unfortunately, in its current form, it does not do that. Rhode Island restaurants operate under strict food safety guidelines that are designed to keep people safe. And these guidelines are set out in the Rhode Island Food Code, which is modeled after the federal food code. Under this legislation, home kitchens would be able to circumvent almost all of those safety guidelines, which are long established by food safety professionals across the country. The biggest challenge in this is it doesn't require a food safety manager, which is a training that every food establishment has to go through I believe it's every 5 years now. This not only includes kind of basic food safety training, but it also includes allergen training, which is so important to ensure that customers don't inadvertently get exposed to allergens from their food. We know that this is a problem. Last year, an illegal home kitchen used crafting glitter instead of edible glitter on a birthday cake for a children's party. This led to several children in Rhode Island getting copper poisoning, which is unheard of anywhere else. This legislation doesn't require any type of inspection from the Department of Health, which is a key component in other states' programs, including our neighboring state of Massachusetts. But when we spoke to the Rhode Island Department of Health, they acknowledged that they needed these inspections for this to be done safely, but they also stated that they don't have the staffing or funding to even do this. So if this were to move forward, there would need to be a substantial financial investment in the Office of Food Protection to handle these types of inspections. I also just want to highlight the concerns of our local bakeries. They have invested an incredible amount of money and time and energy into developing their businesses, and this legislation completely undercuts that investment. There is no limit to how much these home bakers can sell, so they could essentially open an underground bakery that doesn't have to comply with any of the rules or fees or taxes that brick and mortar establishments have to comply with. There's also no mechanism for requiring these home kitchens to pay meals and beverage tax, which not only automatically makes their products 8% cheaper than real bakeries, it also deprives the state and municipalities from much needed revenue that is derived from that tax. So on that note, I do want to reiterate that we are very committed to finding a solution to these challenges, but would be happy to take any questions from the committee.
Any questions from the Rhode Island Hospitality Association? Hearing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great evening. Next, we have David Didakian of Eat, Drink Rhode Island is David. We're calling him now. He is in support of this legislation. David.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the committee for having me. I appreciate the time tonight to speak. A lot of what I was going to say in support of this bill was already said with the conversation at the beginning of this. Very well said by the senators there, and thank you to Senator DeMario for putting this bill forth. I run Eat Drink Rhode Island. I do media marketing and events, and I've worked with, I don't want to say all the product manufacturers here in the state, but many of them at various events over the last 10 years. And I strongly support this bill. This bill is a stepping stone. It's a way forward for so many people to be able to create a product and just get started. They're not competing with these well-established businesses. There's no way that a single person in their home kitchen could possibly ever compete with a larger manufacturer or a bakery, for that example. It's just not physically possible. As Ms. Donovan mentioned earlier, it takes her 8 hours to make a few dozen cookies. But this is a way forward for so many people to create a business, to see if they can actually do it. And it's not skirting any health issues or any safety issues of that kind. We've already had this in place for many years for farm kitchens. And if you look at the bill, it's basically saying we're going to apply the same rules and regulations to people at home. There's just no way that a business can create a vast amount of product without then scaling up to a commercial kitchen or incubator space, as has been mentioned before. This is really a way forward for those folks. As Senator Raptakis and others mentioned, commercial kitchens are very expensive, rentals are very expensive, so this is a way of just seeing if your product works and if people are interested. I can tell you personally, over the last year, especially during this pandemic, so many people have asked me about this. So many people have tried to start businesses at home. So many people have baked breads or made cakes at home to try and get a little bit of income during this time when they had none. And it's a way to see if this is something actually you're interested in, and if it's a way they can actually build a business. And I think very importantly, it hasn't been addressed yet, but I think it's really important to point out that the vast majority of these types of businesses around the country are women and BIPOC owned and created by people who really need this as a way to be at home with their families or not pay for childcare or other equipment, and to start having some income for themselves. And as I said, around the country, I just want to point out, I think it really needs to be pointed out here when everyone brings up some of these oppositions, that there are cottage food laws in 48 states. We are one of 2 states that do not have these laws, which, if that alone doesn't point out to you that this can be done safely, that this can be done without impacting other businesses, that this can be a huge stepping stone for good entrepreneurs. 48 other states have this law, and it does not, destroy the economy or the health of any of those states. There's not been any massive health outbreaks in any other states with any issues like this. For us to be one of 2 states that don't have this is, I think, very telling in itself. So I appreciate the time. Thank you all very much for listening, and thank you. I certainly hope to see that this bill move forward. Thank you.
Okay. All right. At this time, we're having technical difficulty getting some of the people to testify in favor. We'll try again, but we have received a letter from the Department of Health indicating their concern that would require an amendment to the current law to sell directly. Their concerns include contamination of product by ill members of the household who may be using the kitchen, cross-contamination of raw animal foods being stored, lack of allergen control of utensils, potential water quality concerns, lack of dedicated sink to ensure hand washing, household pets, barriers to inability. How do we address those things? Is Senator DeMario here? Have you received the letter from the Department of Health? You're on mute. Can you unmute, please?
Is that better?
Yep, much better.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, I appreciate the opportunity to speak again. So I did, as Sarah Bratko had mentioned in her testimony, I did have a meeting with her and some members of the Department of Health yesterday. I did just want to provide actually one quick clarification to her testimony. The issue that she mentioned with the copper poisoning actually occurred at an established bakery. That was not from a home kitchen. And so I mentioned that just to point out that, you know, there are risks, obviously, with prepared foods. And so, you know, in terms of some of their concerns regarding allergens and things like that, that is where the labeling requirement comes in. So that it is clear that, you know, the consumer understands that there isn't any guarantee about, you know, something being free from allergens. And also, so, you know, the buyer is beware, basically. You know, they are aware of where this is coming from and you know, what risks might come along with that. And I guess, you know, one of the things that I do also just want to go back to is that this is also perfectly legal when it's done like for charity. So when we have bake sales, when we have potlucks, when, you know, we have other instances where people make things in their homes and serve them to, you know, out in their communities, you know, this is not really a huge cause for concern. And again, I do, you know, respect obviously the need for ensuring safety, but there are also some things in the statute to address issues like water quality. That is something that is necessary in terms of the registration. You know, I want to point out that registration process is not just as simple as like, you know, I want to sign up and do this. You know, there are some things that need to be attested to, and there are some standards that need to be kept up. And so, you know, again, I'm very interested in trying to find, you know, what that right lane is of as few barriers as possible. But, you know, I also just do want to point out that, again, there's already a large consumer base for this type of thing, as evidenced by, you know, not to be stereotypical, but every mom who's thrown a birthday party in the last couple of years has like their cookie lady, their cake person, you know, and everyone kind of knows what they're getting. And so I want to be very clear that, you know, we want to be transparent with making sure that consumers understand that. But I think that addresses a little bit of that risk.
Well, I guess my question more towards, is there a licensure process?
Yes.
So that the state would know who's licensed.
Yes.
And that way the state could look at it from the perspective of the taxes that may be involved and also the Department of Health checkup, so to speak, because, you know, when you go to a restaurant and other places, Department of Health inspects those establishments, and so there would have to be some sort of inspection process.
Yes, absolutely. And so this would provide for, you know, again, for needing to meet some of those guidelines. Like, you know, there's a provision in the statute, for example, that a person would have to keep all of their, you know, recipes and procedures, you know, on hand, that, you know, they would need to have their water quality tested every year. And there would be that registration process through the Department of Health that would have to be met, which would then also allow, you know, for if something were to happen, just like with any type of commercial establishment, they could investigate that, you know, any outbreak of a foodborne illness and know where that came from, which again is a piece of that labeling requirement.
All right, let's get back to, we found another witness, Kelly Andrioni. Is Kelly on the line? Kelly?
Yes.
You're in the Special Legislation Committee testifying on Bill 552 by Senator DeMario.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of Bill 552, the Home Food Manufacturer Act. My name is Kelly Andrioni, and I live in Barrington with my husband and 2 children. My husband and I are both native Rhode Islanders, and after living in Boston for nearly 2 decades, we decided to move back here in 2015 so our children could grow up here. When we moved back, my husband kept his job in Boston, so I became a stay-at-home mom in order to best support our childcare and family needs. This time at home quickly reminded me how much I love to cook and bake, and I soon found myself looking into ways to start a home-based baking business. I was saddened to find that there were no options because Rhode Island doesn't permit home food manufacture. In 2017,
Determined to get something off the ground and seeing no other way to do so, I invested a great deal of money into starting a venture at a local incubator. In 2018, the business opened its doors in the form of pop-ups. But despite the fact that it was very successful, when it came to product sales, there was just no feasible way to keep it going. The incubator's fees were exorbitant for a small business like mine that only wanted to be in the kitchen for a few hours a week. Between the dry storage fees, the refrigeration fees, the freezer fees, the locker fees, membership fees, kitchen rental fees, insurance, and the various other fees incurred each month, before long, continuing on was not an option. If I had had the option to bake a few batches of cookies out of my home kitchen each week, I could have done so at a tiny fraction of the cost involved of working out of the incubator. Incubators are not designed for businesses that want to work on a small scale. That is why cottage food laws exist in other places, to offer small-scale home bakers an option to bake from home. I was devastated when my business had to close after only a few short months in business, despite having poured over 2 years of planning and thousands of dollars into it, because I knew that had I had the option to work from my home kitchen, my business would have been thriving. Knowing that I could work out of my home kitchen if I moved back to Massachusetts or any of the other 48 states where it is legal to do so is also incredibly frustrating. I love Rhode Island and I want to continue living here, but I also love baking, and I love baking for people. I do not have the time, and after my experience with the incubator, I no longer have the resources to bake out of a commercial kitchen, nor do I need a commercial kitchen. All I need is a home oven. Without a cottage food law, I will consider moving to a state that will support me as I pursue my dream to bake for people. There are many bakers like me, many of whom are parents of young children and have limitations on our time, who just want to safely bake out of our home kitchens. Thank you for allowing me to testify and considering my thoughts.
Thank you very much. You sounded a little bit like Senator Raptakis when you were identifying all the different licenses that you need. Because Senator Raptakis, who owned a pizza establishment, used to have a scroll of all the different licenses from Rhode Island. So thank you for your testimony. Any questions?
No.
Senator Mendes has a question for you.
Sure.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, this testimony is really compelling to me, and is one of the reasons why I, again, think this is such an important piece of legislation. There's so many ways that we can make life easier and more efficient for people that live in our state, and remove really easy obstacles, and I feel like that is one of our jobs to do. And so it kind of breaks my heart that a citizen that that it deeply cares and is rooted in the community, that chose to be a Rhode Islander, feels there's a barrier to their passion and to their giving back. So again, I wanted to thank the sponsor of this legislation, and then also, I guess my question is Ms. Andriozzi, is that correct?
Yes.
Ms. Andrioni, yeah.
Yeah. I was just kind of wondering if you knew of that this is like not an issue in other neighboring states, and if you got a sense of that at all from other people.
Yeah, I mean, this can be done in virtually any other state. The only other state that has limitations on this is New Jersey, but people can bake out of their homes in every other state except for New Jersey and Rhode Island.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering, if it was just in New England, it was just Rhode Island holding up the progress.
Right.
Okay. Well, hopefully we can make that happen, and yeah, thank you again for your testimony.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The last witness of the evening, Ellen Hamlet. Can we get Ellen on? I love that sound. Ellen?
Hello.
Hello. Are you on the Senate Special Legislation Committee testifying on Bill 552 by Senator DeMario?
Yes, sir. So thank you, Chairman Felag and members of the committee for the opportunity to testify today on the Home Food Manufacture Act. My name is Ellen, and I work at the Institute for Justice. We are a national nonprofit advocacy organization that supports creating opportunities for home-based food producers to have an accessible path to entrepreneurship. So there are two main points that I would like to make in my testimony tonight. One, that Rhode Island is the only state that only allows farmers to participate in this type of entrepreneurship, and that this bill does not exist any of the existing safety regulations, does not alter any of the existing safety regulations. The ability to sell shelf-stable foods, also referred to as cottage food, made in the home kitchen, can create an enormous opportunity for people who are struggling to make ends meet. Cottage food businesses are a way for entrepreneurs with big dreams but little capital to start small in their home kitchens without having to spend thousands of dollars on professional equipment or commercial kitchen space. Nearly every state across the country has embraced these businesses as job creators, but Rhode Island has fallen behind on this opportunity. Cottage foods have proven benefits of increasing self-employment opportunities, especially for women, increasing access in food deserts and allowing for more consumer choice while allowing consumers to eat local. As Rhode Islanders recover from the pandemic, food-based businesses can create jobs and expand access to local food, especially in rural areas. Unfortunately, Rhode Island is the only state that only allows farmers to sell homemade foods. That means while a farmer can sell homemade chocolate chip cookies, a home baker cannot sell the exact same cookies without breaking the law. So Rhode Island's law is keeping families across the country from an opportunity to earn extra income and contribute to the economy. But a reform like SB 552 is proven to create jobs. For example, since 2016, Delaware, Connecticut, and Kentucky have opened their cottage food laws to allow for all people to sell cottage foods, not just farmers. These states have seen a boon of entrepreneurship. In information obtained through FOIA requests, as of early 2021, Connecticut has over 400 and Kentucky has over 900 registered cottage food producers, whereas Rhode Island has just 6 registered farm home food manufacturers. So this reform will create opportunities. The home food manufacturers are allowed to sell are limited to non-potentially hazardous foods, which are inherently safe. The likelihood of a person becoming sick from a cottage food is very low, and you can see evidence for that in my written testimony. Additionally, the department has allowed farmers to participate in this type of entrepreneurship for several years. This bill is simply expanding the existing regulatory framework to allow all Rhode Islanders to participate in this path to entrepreneurship. Whether in a home kitchen on a farm, a home kitchen in the suburbs, or a home kitchen in the city, anyone should be able to participate in the successful path to entrepreneurship. So we urge the committee to support SB 552. And once again, thank you, Chairman Felag and members of the committee for the opportunity to testify in support of the Home Food Manufacturer Act.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We do have one more witness, Brian Lose. They're calling him right now. And while we're waiting for Mr. Lose, the sponsor is still with us, correct? I see you. Have you had an opportunity to look at Massachusetts legislation and see how we may differ, or what types of things would relieve the fears of the Rhode Island Department of Health?
Yes, I have actually looked at the Massachusetts laws and the Connecticut laws. I think, again, I was on a call yesterday with some people from the Department of Health and trying to hear their concerns. I think that they are concerned about bandwidth in terms of enforcement because, basically it would have to be if there was a problem, they would look into it. I think that they're a little bit concerned about the scale of, how many people might do this and how many people that then would add to their oversight. So, I am still in
Okay, let me just cut you short so I get this last speaker on. We don't lose him. Brian?
Yes, hello.
Hello, how are we doing this evening?
Good, thanks. I'll dive right in since time is short.
Please do.
Hi, Senate members. My name is Brian Leos. I'm the owner of Butterbang, a licensed one-man croissant bakery in Providence. One important thing to make crystal clear about this bill is that it applies to non-hazardous foods like breads, granola, and pastries. We aren't advocating for homemade ceviche, so that shouldn't be a concern.
Yep.
I am in very strong support of this bill for 5 reasons. One, leasing a commercial kitchen is extremely expensive, as many have noted. I spent my life savings of $50,000 to outfit 1,000 square feet with equipment and space improvements before I had a single customer to prove out my business. A commercial lease must also be paid, even if someone fails early on. Most have to take on significant risk to start a micro-food business they could otherwise start at home. They can always graduate to a commercial space if and when that makes financial sense. Two, hourly kitchens or incubators are expensive. These shared kitchens often cost between $25 to $35 an hour base, and there are often many hidden fees above and beyond this. Many renters end up shuttering when these costs cut too deeply into profits to make financial sense. I hear this time and again from people. They could bake that same batch of 100 cupcakes at home for free. That brings us to number 3. This law can greatly increase profitability because working where you live provides tremendous cost savings for the solo food entrepreneur. Not having to pay a commercial lease on top of your home mortgage or home rent may be the difference between success and bankruptcy. Number 4, it will increase self-employment in the state. Stay-at-home parents, caregivers, and those wishing to work where they live and work around their schedules and constraints while meaningfully supplementing their household income can do so. And lastly, number 5, cottage food businesses will enrich neighborhoods. Imagine a baker in your neighborhood selling goods from their kitchen window or a retrofitted garage. These micro businesses can build community at a time when this notion is lacking. Neighbors waiting in line get to know each other, and these operations can enrich the lives of community members. Now, in closing, 2 anecdotes. First, a quick search on social media marketplaces reveals scores of illegal home food businesses in Rhode Island. A law could legitimize many of these, increasing consumer safety and opening a new channel for sales tax revenue collection, which is what this bill would do. Lastly, for all the aforementioned reasons, I'm looking to move my business out of Rhode Island. I had hoped to purchase a home here and put down roots, but running my micro-food business in this state has been too financially challenging. If law allowed me to operate out of a converted home setup, I could drop my commercial lease and easily qualify for a mortgage. As it stands, I'm looking to the other 48 states that already have cottage food law. I'm confident establishing this law would provide gainful employment to thousands of Rhode Islanders and kickstart many exciting food ventures in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. That concludes our hearing this evening. Could I have a motion to hold for further study? A motion to hold. Do I have a second?
Second. So moved.
Second. Roll call, please.
Senator Felag?
Yes.
Senator Murray?
Yes.
Senator Lawson?
Yes.
Senator Bell?
No.
Senator Mendes?
No.
I'm sorry. Senator Mendes?
No.
Senator Raptakis?
Yes.
Senator Seveny?
Yes.
Thank you.
The tally, please.
5 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative.
Thank you very much. That concludes our business for this evening. A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
So moved.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Thank you very much for your indulgence this evening.